So, refreshing what we talked about last Thursday. When we solve equations with the variable in more than one place, and in this case, we're looking at equations where the variable is on both sides of the equation. So we have something on the left side and on the right side. The first step is exactly the same as what we were doing before. Okay? It doesn't matter if the variables are on both sides or not. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to simplify each side of the equation. And to simplify each side of the equation, what two things do we need to do? What two things do we need to do to simplify each side of the equation? Distribute and combine like terms. Exactly. Yes, it is on your paper, so you should be able to just read that. Okay? After we simplify each side of the equation, this is where it's a little bit different than the last type of equation. This is where we're going to have to deal with the variable being on both sides. And to deal with that, what are we going to do? We're going to pick on the little guy and get the variable on one side of the equation. Okay, so what we're going to do here, if we have variables on the left side and the right side, we're going to figure out which one's smaller, and we're going to either add or subtract to get rid of that one. So we're going to get rid of the smaller one. Once we do that, the variable is going to be on one side of the equation, and we can do what we usually do, solve as usual. Okay, so we did this example yesterday, right, or Thursday? We did finish example 2? All right, so example 3. Go ahead and copy it down, and we'll go through this one together. Once we have circled the variable and draw the line through the equal sign, what do we do next? Okay, we distribute. And here we can do 4 times c, which is 4c, and 4 times negative 3, which is negative 12. So we get 4c minus 12 on the left side. Can I distribute over here on the right side? No. So we'll just bring that down. 2c minus 6. Now, after we distribute, we combine like terms, right? So can I combine the 4c with the 2c? Why not? Because they're on two different sides. Exactly. So this is an example of one where there's nothing to combine here. There are no like terms to combine. So we move on to the next step. The next step says we need to get the variable on one side of the equation. Which one do I want to get rid of, the 4c or the 2c? Why the 2c, Aaron? Okay, because we want to get rid of the smaller one, right? We're going to pick on the little guy. So we're going to subtract 2c to get rid of this. Why do we subtract? Because it's positive, exactly. So to get rid of a positive number or a positive term, we subtract that term. And then we subtract 2c on the other side. And the 2c's on the right side are going to cancel. We'll get to that in a second. But what's 4c minus 2c? 2c. And we bring down our minus 12. The 2c and the minus 2c cancel, and what's left over there? Negative 6. Okay, good. Then what? Yep, next step says solve as usual. So we solve this like we normally do. The next thing we would do is get rid of the minus 12, right? Remember, we want to get the c by itself, so I have to get rid of the 2 and the minus 12. So I'll add 12 to both sides. And we have negative 6 plus 12. That's the same thing as 12 minus 6. But we'll get there. Negative 12 and positive 12 cancel. What's left over there? 2c. And 12 minus 6 is positive 6. Good. Then divide by 2. And 2's cancel. We get c equals 3. So once we circle the variables and draw the line, the next thing we're going to do is simplify each side of the equation, and we'll start that by distributing. Negative 4 times d is negative 4d. Negative 4 times positive 3 is negative 12. And everything else just comes down. So we've got our negative 3d on this side, and we've got our negative 12 on this side. Okay, after we distribute, The next thing we do is combine like terms. I see one place here where we have like terms. We have a negative 12 and a negative 12. Well, what is negative 12 plus negative 12, or negative 12 minus 12? Negative 24. How many people put 0? Okay. Bring everything else down. So we've got the negative 3D here and the negative 4D here. Now, here's where it gets a little tricky. When we say pick on the little guy, you might be tempted to say, well, 3D is the little guy, right? Is 3D smaller than 4D? Well, the way I said it is 3D is smaller than 4D. The problem is this is a negative 3D and a negative 4D.
Is there any way you can
So,
get rid of the D on the table?
so which number is smaller? Negative 4D or negative 3D?
Negative 4D.
Negative 4D is smaller because it's a bigger negative number. So we want to get rid of the negative 4D. Now, like I said before, if you don't do it that way, you could still get the right answer. This one gets pretty tricky, though, if you try to get rid of the negative 3D. So getting rid of the negative 4D, we're going to add 4D. Why did I add 4D? Yeah, it's negative, so I have to do the opposite. So to get rid of the negative, I have to add.
Okay.
All right, so I've got plus 4D on both sides. So what is negative 3D plus 4D? 1D. And remember, if it's 1D, we're just going to write it as D. Negative 4D and the plus 4D cancel each other out, and what's left over there? Negative 24. Okay, what do I need to do next? Box it. Remember, our goal is to get the variable by itself. Once we do that, we're done. Alright, so in example 5 here, I've circled the variables, I drew the line. The next thing I need to do is what? What do I do next? Distribute. Same thing we've done every time, right? There's two different places I can distribute. I can distribute the 3 here, and I can distribute the 4 here. So let's start with the 3. 3 times E is 3E. 3 times positive 3 is positive 9. Okay, over on the other side, 4 times E is 4E. And 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. Anything that we didn't distribute here, we're just going to bring down. So we've got an equal sign on the line and our minus 8E here. Okay, what next? Combine the like terms. I don't see any like terms over here on the left side, so we don't have to do it there. But over here I've got a 4E and a minus 8E. So positive 4E minus 8E. One's positive, one's negative. So do we add or subtract? One's positive, one's negative. So we're going to subtract. 8 minus 4 is... What's 8 minus 4? 8 minus 4 is 4. But, Cyan, you're saying it's a negative 4 because the bigger number is negative. Good. So we get negative 4E minus 12 here. And 3E plus 9 here. Now, in the last example, both of our variables were negative. And to get rid of the smaller one, we actually got rid of the one with the bigger number because the bigger negative is smaller. Sounds kind of weird, but that's the way it works, right? Well, here we have a positive E and a negative E. Well, if we have a positive and a negative, which one's always going to be smaller? The negative. A negative number is always smaller than a positive number. So, which one do we want to get rid of here? The negative 4E. So how do we get rid of a negative 4E? Add 4E. So we're going to add 4E to both sides, and that's going to get rid of this negative 4E here. But let's concentrate on this side first. What's 3E plus 4E? 7E. And then we'll bring down our plus 9. Our negative 4E and positive 4E cancel. So what do we have here? Negative 12. Then we solve as usual, right? So subtract 9 from both sides. Too much work, Aaron? 9's cancel. We're left with 7e on the left. And what's negative 12 minus 9? They're both negative, so are we going to add or subtract? We add. 12 plus 9 is 21, and it's negative because they were both negative. And finally, divide by 7 on both sides. 7's cancel, and we get E equals, what'd you say, Courtney? Negative 3, yes. Because we have a negative divided by a positive, our answer is going to be negative. So we get E equals negative 3 there.
Walking around, it looks like one.
Alright, so last example here. I want you to try to do this one on your own. It looks a lot more complicated. It's really not. Once you distribute and combine like terms, it looks just like all the other ones. Once we circle the variables and draw the line, what's the first thing we're going to do? We're going to distribute, right? So if we distribute that 2, we get 2f minus 6, and if we distribute the 5, we get 5f minus 10. And then once we distribute those, what do we do with everything else? Just bring it down, right? So we'll bring all that other stuff down, and you should get 20 plus 2f minus 6 equals 5f minus 10 plus 6f minus 3.
You wrote it?
Yeah. After we distribute, what do we do next? We combine like terms. So I see like terms in a couple of different places. The 20 minus 6 is going to be a positive 14. On the other side, the 5f plus 6f is 11f. And the negative 10 minus 3, this is the tricky one here. Negative 10 minus 3, those are both negatives, so we add and we get a negative 13. So after combining like terms, we should have 2f plus 14 equals 11f minus 13. Everybody okay with that?
No.
So once we've combined like terms, now we need to get the variable on one side. Now, if we follow our rule, picking on the little guy, which one should we get rid of? The 2f. Now, I did see a couple of people that got rid of the 11f here. And as long as you do the math correct, you're going to get the same answer. I'm always going to get rid of the smaller one, though, because I like working with positives whenever I can. So subtract 2f from both sides to get rid of that 2f. And on the left side, the 2f's are going to cancel, and what's left? 2f's are going to cancel, and what's left? The 14. On the right side, what is 11f minus 2f? What's 11f minus 2f? 9f. So we get 14 equals 9f minus 13. And then we solve as usual. Got to get rid of the minus 13 by doing what? Add 13 to both sides. On the left side, 14 plus 13 is? 14 plus 13 is? 27. And we get the 9f left by itself on the right side. Then to get rid of the 9, we divide by 9. So we get 3 is equal to f.